Herrick.
Here.
And Mr. Kazner in for Mr. Marinello.
Yes, here.
Okay, if everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine notice.
The meeting has been advertised according to sunshine law.
Any communications? I have no chairman's comments. Can I have an approval of minutes for the June 13th, 24 meeting?
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Chairwoman Alvarado.
Yes.
Mr. Venero.
Yes.
Mr. Vanda.
Yes.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mr. Graziano.
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn. Yes. Mr. Guyer.
Yes.
Okay, approved for all cases.
We don't have a bill list, so we're going on to resolutions to be memorialized, which we have none. There's no old business. Applications before the board, which is PB 2402, 605, and 609 Washington Avenue. Are you ready to proceed?
Can I just make a point of order? Please use the microphone so I can hear you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait,
Should I move it or keep it there?
whatever you want to do.
I can leave it.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairwoman, board members, board professionals. My name is Michael Maselli. I'm a partner at the law firm of Prime Belleville Maselli. We represent the applicant Belleville Operating Inc. in connection with an application for block 8302, lots 9 and 10. The street addresses of those blocks he wants is 605 to 609 Washington Avenue and 174 Greylock Parkway. Right now, the site has a gas and service station on it, and there's also a residence, both of which will be demolished. What we're proposing to do pursuant to a redevelopment plan, we believe the board has seen before, we're seeking preliminary final major site plan approval to construct a 5-story mixed-use building. It'll have residential units and some commercial element, containing 51 residential units, approximately 1,921 square feet of ground floor commercial, and 54 parking spaces in the building. There will also be 4 parking spaces added back to the street as part of this application. This application is as of right. It has no variances or deviations from the redevelopment plan. It's recommended by this board and adopted by your council. I have one witness tonight, Al Sambade, who is the project architect, engineer, and planner. And without further ado, I'd like to call him as a witness.
Please do.
Can you please state your name and address, business address?
Al Sambade, DAL Design Group, 11 West 8th Street, Bayonne, New Jersey.
Can you spell your last name?
Sambade.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Sambade, can you present your qualifications to the board?
Sure. I'm a registered architect, licensed engineer, professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been so for approximately 37 years. Prior to being in private practice, I was assistant municipal engineer in the city of Bayonne for 7 years. I've appeared before municipal and county planning boards, zoning boards of adjustment.
Who accept your qualifications?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sambade, can you just orient the board to the location of this site?
Sure. The property is at the intersection of Washington Avenue and Greylock Parkway. Mr. Maselli mentioned the address. On the property now, as the board knows, is a gas station at the intersection and a single-family home to the rear of the gas station. Those two properties are subject to the application. The property has a frontage on Washington Avenue of 105 feet and a depth frontage on Greylock Parkway of about 167 feet. So the application that you see here tonight is covered in the redevelopment plan, and the applicant has worked with township over a period of probably around 2 years to get to the application that you see tonight. And during that process, a number of revisions to the plans were made and to the redevelopment plan, including after plans were submitted earlier this year, we revised them subsequent to that to address some comments that were brought up by the township and the professional team. The gas station that is part of this application will be closed. It is a site that needs to be remediated, and there has been work on that already in progress. The expectation, from my understanding, is that remediation will be complete second or third quarter of next year, and that construction will commence immediately after that point. But the site will be remediated, will be cleaned. Obviously, the DEP has jurisdiction over that. So the building that's proposed is a 5-story building, a little over 63 feet in height, that complies with the redevelopment plan. The building setbacks on Washington, on Greylock, to the rear, to the residential properties to the rear along Greylock, all comply with the redevelopment plan. And board members, I can go into detail, just specifically if you have a question, just stop. The building has 51 units, complies with the plan, 14 two-bedrooms and 37 one-bedrooms. 27% of those are two-bedrooms. Again, that complies with the plan. All units have uniform window treatments. All units will have within the residential unit washer, dryer, utility room, fiber optic service, and an in-unit HVAC, a central HVAC unit, and a hot water heater, all located within the units. All units are open floor plans, high ceilings, potential ceilings, expansive windows, bring in natural light, and will have high quality finishes. The unit sizes vary. One bedroom is 700 to 760 square feet. Two bedrooms are 810 to 1,290 square feet. We comply with the redevelopment plan requirements as to building height, floor-to-floor heights. We comply or exceed floor heights on the ground floor and floor heights on the upper floor. The building has a number of amenities. There are tenant storage spaces within the central core of each floor that provide one tenant storage space per residential unit. There's also a sports simulator, children's playroom, shared business center and workspace, a club room with refrigerator, sink, and coffee bar, a fitness center, and a rooftop deck that meets the requirement with the barbecue, fire pit, and lounging. And that is 1,189 square feet. The total amenity space is over 4,900 square feet, which is really the equivalent of about 6 average-sized apartments. So that ratio is pretty good. There's also commercial space, 1,921, 2 commercial spaces that front on Washington Avenue. That totals 1,921 square feet. And if I can just refer to one of the drawings. So that's shown, you can see that on the rendering. I don't know if all the board members can see it. I can turn it around and pass it. But you'll see that the commercial spaces basically have floor-to-ceiling glass, large, relatively different.
I don't think we submitted the rendering. I think we should mark that probably, if we can, as A1. Is that okay? So building rendering?
Building rendering, yeah. They need to.
Okay.
You want to mark material boards also? While we're at it.
Oh, yep. Okay, so A2 is the material boards?
Which consists of 2 material boards.
2 material boards. And then colorized site plan?
Those are.
They're in
the
colorized.
plan, so it's just a large version for reference.
All right, so
The
then
board wants to mark them.
we'll leave it at that.
The 2 boards with the squares on it are A2, and this one right here is A1.
Correct.
So take this one, put this one. Just putting this one here because it has more information. Okay. So access to the building and security in and around the building. The residential access points are controlled by a virtual doorman access system which provides surveillance, access control, and intercom facilities. And remotely can grant access for deliveries. So if there's an Amazon, UPS, or even the mailman, they buzz it, remotely, it's visualized, and they get buzzed into the building to do what they need to do. Also applies to visitors and so on. There'll be surveillance cameras all around the building, and they're shown on the plans. And access to the residential components of the parking garage, upper and lower level, is by either a key fob or by a roaming code, which is what most folks probably have in their car anyway. Trash recycling is all within the building. Each floor has a trash room with chutes that go down to a larger storage area in the basement. So there's a chute for recyclables and a chute for trash. Trash is fed into a compactor in the basement. It's stored in the basement until pickup. Pickup will be by a private hauler. And it will be scheduled such that at the time of pickup, the material, trash, or recyclables will be brought up from the basement and taken out to the truck. So this material, trash or recyclables, is not left on the curb waiting for pickup. It's a scheduled pickup, and then building manager would, the truck's here, they'll take it up and take it out. So it never really sits at the curb. And the trash is taken, there's a separate elevator from the basement to the first floor. It's a freight elevator, the trash recyclables come up in that elevator, and then they're taken straight to the outside. The signage that is proposed is limited and it complies with the redevelopment plan. As to parking, Mr. Maselli mentioned that we're creating 4 new on-street parking spaces. The existing gas station has these very expansive curb cuts. Obviously, they won't exist anymore, so that yields us 4 new on-street parking spaces. The garage parking is 2 levels, and entry level at grade, and then there's a separate level in the basement area. 2 separate entrance points, 2 garage doors, both accessed from Greylock Parkway through 2 24-foot curb cuts, which again complies with the new development plan. There are, as part of that parking, there are visitor parking spaces and commercial parking spaces, 2 commercial, 6 visitor parking spaces. They are behind the garage door, but accessible. But anything that requires, is a residential parking space, is behind an overhead door. So no one can park in residential spaces except residences, and the 2 commercial spaces and visitor parking spaces are accessible. So that, and obviously there's the on-street parking that's being created also. The redevelopment plan, the requirement is for 46 residential spaces, and we comply with that. 6 visitor parking spaces, comply with that, and 2 commercial parking spaces, and comply with that. The garage also provides for 9 electric vehicle charging stations that would be installed on day 1. The board probably knows that the EV ordinance requires the installation over a 3-year period, but these would be installed on the first day. There is no loading space requirement. We also provide 30 bicycle parking spaces, storage spaces. Also complies with the redevelopment plan. The architectural plans, I'll just go through them briefly, but the materials are reflected on the 2 material boards. And the materials are high-quality materials all around the building on all sides. When we first met with the township almost 2 years ago, we understood that there had been, at least prior to that time, several developments where what was presented to the board wasn't necessarily what was built. So that was a strong statement that the township made to us. So what you see reflects the materials that comply with the redevelopment plan, that are proposed, specific as to type, product, make, and color. Those are part of the exhibits, so folks keep them, and you can, as well as the rendering, and that is what the building will look like. So as to the floor plans, the first floor, the entry-level floor, has the garage spaces, a lobby, lounge area, and the two commercial spaces. The second floor through the fourth floor each have 14 units. Obviously on the outside of the wall, and the interior core has circulation, and then amenity spaces on each floor. So each space will have a storage space for those 14 units. So it's not as if you're taking out your Christmas decorations and you have to go to a basement or to an attic or something. You go down the hall to your lockable storage space. The fifth floor is the same as the floors below, but it only has 9 units. And the fifth floor is stepped back from the main building face. The fifth floor also contains that rooftop terrace, 1,189 square feet. Also contains a club room and also contains a fitness center. I covered the building exterior. So we have a couple of reports from the board's experts. The first one is from Mr. Harris, who's a professional engineer, planner, and land surveyor. He's a town engineer. And the report was prepared prior to the latest revisions of the plan, which was April 26th. And Mr. Harris' report is February 5th. But the comments are relevant. There's really nothing in the revisions that's affected, I think, engineering items. And most of the items I think I've covered in testimony already, and if not, I'll be reminded. One of the items that I haven't covered is stormwater management. So, as Mr. Harris states, the site is currently 100% impervious. It's paved for building use, for the most part. There's some grassed area at the single-family residence, but primarily it's 100%. The gas station certainly is. The project is not a major project as defined by DEP. It's less than an acre in size. And the requirement for stormwater management is that you cannot contribute any more runoff during the peak period than currently exits the site. Runoff from the site runs primarily down Greylock Parkway to Floyd. And at Floyd, at each intersection, at each corner, there are a number of catch basins, and that ties into the main storm sewer for the area. So the system that this building will contain has a detention tank in it, detention vault in it, which will hold stormwater for a period of time and then release it slowly afterwards. The net result is that the runoff for each of the storms, the two 10 and 100-year storm, varies between 66 and 74% of what's going there now. So there's 30 to 35% reduction in stormwater runoff generated from the site. That is a significant environmental benefit. I'm sure in most urban, we see it all the time, in most urban municipalities with issues with climate change and so on, and stronger and shorter rainstorms, flooding has become a problem. So this certainly helps in that regard. This, coupled with the environmental cleanup of the site, is, I believe, a significant environmental benefit of this project. The site improvements, public sidewalks, curbs, and we show public improvements in the engineering plans that I believe show the standards that the township has for Washington Avenue. And during our most recent meeting, prior to this hearing, we understood that the township engineer and others were working on standards, sidewalk standards for both Washington, maybe new standards, and for Greylock. We don't have them yet. We haven't seen them. They're not necessarily reflected on the plans, the exact standards, although we did carry what we believe were the Washington Avenue standards to Greylock Parkway. But I can put on the record that once we receive those standards, the application will comply, will follow them to the letter. And I think that addresses Mr. Herod's comments. There's also a report from Board Planner Rita Apte, which I think addresses or confirms much of the testimony that I've already put forth in terms of compliance with the redevelopment plan. There are a few comments in the report that I can address. Maybe one is visitors' parking spaces, as I testified, there are 6 visitor parking spaces. A clarification on the rear yard being abutting lot 11 on Greylock Parkway. There is a 5-foot fence that surrounds the emergency generator in that area. The emergency generator has a soundproof enclosure to start with, but then the fence also acts as a sound barrier. At the rear lot line, abutting lot 11, there is a 4-foot fence, decorative fence, a metal decorative fence, and that's visible from the neighbor. And then there's a 3-foot buffer there also on applicant's property, but it provides landscaping and buffering to the neighbor to the north. At the last meeting we had, there was a suggestion that we had a conversation with the neighbor regarding that landscaping and make sure that they were on board. And perhaps wanted some different planting or something that would be justifiable in the area that we would do that. So applicant has made that attempt, and the owner does not live on the site. It's a rental property, and the understanding is that the owner is not local. But we continue to reach out, and we will make such contact with them, and obviously prior to taking this project further, applying for building permits, we'll submit certification of that in some regard. Probably comes from Mr. Maselli. And I believe that addresses the comments that were in Ms. Apte's report. And
Could you tell us about the shared driveway agreement?
yeah, I would. What's being provided on lot 11 is the driveway that they already have. Lot 10 also has a driveway currently, so there are 2 driveways next to each other. There was no shared agreement or easement or anything of the sort on record. I think this is a topic that really came up when we were all discussing a redevelopment plan. So there never was a shared, and Mr. Maselli can perhaps add to it, there never was a shared driveway easement. That neighbor has a 10-foot wide driveway and had it and continues to have it, and that's more than sufficient to fully pull out. One of the changes that was made integral to the plan is a suggestion that the curb cut, which we show as 10 feet, that we do a flare on the curb that may allow them to make an easier turn into that 10 feet, and the plans reflect that. So I hope that answers the question. So as to planning matters, there's really not much. I think we've demonstrated that the requirements of the redevelopment plan prepared by this board, adopted by governing body, have been met with. And I think that the period of time, this is not us showing up with something new that we're presenting to the board. That this is a process that's taken about 2 years, a little over 2 years. So there's been a lot of thought put into this, certainly on the township side and on applicant's side as well. And we believe that this application meets the township's vision for the site. She's in the redevelopment plan. I won't go item by item, but encourages new development and makes greater economic benefit to the property, brings new residents into town, and so on. And that, Madam Chairwoman, I think concludes my direct testimony.
If I could just circle back again, a couple of things, Mr. Sandby. Just to go back to the beginning, lot and building coverage we're good on,
Yes.
the percentages. There were no 3 bedrooms in this building, correct?
There are no 3 bedrooms.
And the units will meet all the design requirements from top to bottom, correct? If If we're required to, would we be amenable to putting fabric canopies over the commercial unit windows?
Yes, yeah, and so Washington Avenue is construction on Washington Avenue is governed by DOT since it's a state road. So as part of this application moving forward, applicant will submit an application to DOT for those improvements. So they will govern. At the same time, I know that the township and the township engineer has been working with DOT to come up with these standards. So typically, what we've seen in other towns is that they don't like to see trees on the curb line. I mean, they're, trained bureaucrats, and they like it that way. So we would argue that it adds to the building, and it adds to the community. But ultimately, it will be DOT's say on the matter. I'm sure that during that process, to the extent possible, we would want Mr. Harris to come in and have a say. But yeah, if fabric awnings are allowed, we'll do them. I mean, they add to the building, so we'd like to do it.
In terms of the parking structure is consistent with the rest of the building, right? There's no disparity between the two, right? The portion of the building that's parking is not different.
It's part of the building, and yeah, we've done everything possible to conceal it. The garage doors are a decorative garage door that will allow for some air movement. They're controlled, as I said, by key fobs or roaming code. But yeah, it's integral to the building, and it really it doesn't stick out as this is a door. We don't have grills all over.
And in terms of the overall building design, is it your testimony that the facades are attractive in design and the materials used are contextual and the colors used are contextual for the neighborhood?
Of course it is.
There are no blank walls on this building, correct?
No.
All right. The commercial units open directly to the street as required,
Yes.
and we meet the tinting and glazing requirements.
Yes, and the openings in the windows, yes.
Lighting, this plan will comply with the lighting requirements in the redevelopment plan,
Yes.
correct? The trash you mentioned, that's a fully enclosed operation, and, right, no one can see it from the street. The outdoor passive recreation space, can you just take us through that to demonstrate that we comply with the requirement?
Sure, there's a requirement in the redevelopment plan that at the rear of the building, there'd be a setback from the home on Greylock Parkway. And there is a setback, we do meet the setback, and we do meet the area for that at 1,600 square feet required, and we do meet that area. It's a 15-foot wide space by the width of the building, so the use of it is, and it is passive, so potentially seating, walk the dog type of thing. But there's no specific plan for that. We can show that to trash acceptable and so on. We would assume that it would be used just for that. Exactly.
So the plan that's in front of the board, that fully complies with use, bulk, design standards of the redevelopment plan?
Absolutely, there are no deviations of that.
And except as you testified tonight, are we okay with the conditions set forth in the reports from the planner and the engineer? That would conclude the questioning.
All right, does the board have any questions for this witness?
I do. So, if you're coming down, mine's a parking question, if you're coming down, say you're coming down Greylock onto Washington Ave, there's no way to make a left turn into the building, so somewhere you have to turn around. I can just see them pulling into the Walgreens lot, trying to turn in there so they can get onto the property, get onto Washington Ave so they can make the left onto the property. Even vice versa, if you're on Washington, the only way into the property is to make a right turn from Washington, or left if you're on the other side. But one of my main concerns is after you come out in the morning from your property, you have to make a right turn, which is gonna, if you need to get back on Washington, they're gonna go down to Floyd Street and just make a U-turn there, which is just gonna create havoc right there.
Well, they can either make a U-turn on Floyd Street or just make a right turn or left turn rather, and go down the block and then come to Washington, if that's where they're going. So we don't really know.
They're gonna make a right turn on Floyd, so we lost on Floyd.
No. Well, I was there earlier, and I went up Greylock and I made a left turn on Floyd to get back to Washington. prior to coming here tonight. As far as, in Greylock, there's an island in the middle of Greylock, so you can't make that left turn in. That's correct. But, yeah, I mean, the garage access point for the redevelopment plan has to be on Greylock, and there's really no other way, and that's what we've
So
done.
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not that it is what it is, but all we can do is conform with the rules, and we're trying that. We do, if the board wishes, we have the project traffic engineer here, who might be able to add something.
No, it has to be on Greylock, so it is what it is. Thank you.
Through the chair. If I may, but Lawrence, I think the thing is, the ones coming off of Greylock are only visitors and retail spaces, right? They're limited spaces.
No, it's both garages.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, it's also, and the board, I'm sure, has heard, traffic expert testimony over years. It's also the number of trips and how often they come. So the perception is that we have 40 cars coming out in a 5-minute period at the same time. The reality is that that's not true. That's spread over a period of several hours. But it all comes down to Greylock. Yes.
So I know that area very well. I've worked this area for years. In Floyd Street itself, you can only put a car down there one way. You have cars on both sides. There's no way you're going to have to accommodate that kind of traffic. It's not going to happen. Because they're all going to come out and they're going to make a left on Floyd Street. That street is never going to be able to handle it. I just don't agree with this. If you're there in the morning, or if you're there at night, if you're there any time of day on Floyd Street, that street is jam-packed. And I don't think it can handle any more.
I don't know what to say to that. You know it better than I do. I was there tonight during rush hour, and I didn't have trouble, but I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm just making a point, that's all.
And we can ask the traffic.
Yeah, we can, but also, right now, this site is a gas station, right?
But they can exit onto Washington Avenue.
No, I understand, it's a much more intense use usually, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Than a residential.
In terms of traffic generated by the site, the gas station is significantly greater than where the residential use,
That's the
multifamily use.
point.
But it's been vacant.
It's still,
No, it's in
it's still
operation.
operating.
It's operating.
Yeah, it's operating, we're winding things down in contemplation of this. I know that there's a service station, a person there,
Yeah.
but it's still open.
Any other comments?
I just had a couple.
Yes.
Okay, one of my comments was, one of the and I forget what garage, it might be the upper one, but there's a 15% grade going to a flat. I think you need to look at.
Yeah,
some
there'll
kind of
be
parabolic
a
curve.
transition. There'll be a transition. Yes.
And we've been asking some, with like these garages are kind of tight. We're just asking to push the columns back a little bit so it's easier for cars to get in and out of the parking spaces.
Sure. I mean, that's the building. That's not a final building structure. So, and you know that the upper building structure is usually governed by the parking layout. So we have no problem moving those columns back. Probably 18 inches or so.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
If you go too far back, you're not going to be able to open your doors. So.
Sure. It shouldn't be a problem, and you're right, it makes that turning maneuver into that 9-foot wide space, perhaps.
I just have one comment. I understand that this meets the redevelopment plan, and I understand once it gets to this point, there's really nothing we can do, but to me, I think on a council level, when they do redevelopment plans, to provide 52 spaces for 51 units is insane. Because all it's going to do is, especially people with 2 bedrooms have 2 cars, you're going to park on the street and you're going to inconvenience all the people that live there their whole lives. And, it looks like a nice building, I just think it's too much for the area. I know it meets the redevelopment plan, but the redevelopment plan to me is flawed.
Specifically,
And-
when we
and-
talk about the parking.
Actually, this board, when we did approve this, we asked for no parking spaces. Which
And they didn't-
no, they did take it.
Oh, And as far as the EV credit, you gotta explain that to me. Like, what's the thinking? Because somebody has an electric car, somebody else isn't gonna have a car?
So the state supersedes our zoning by making that rule. And that's where the shortage of parking spaces is coming from.
But I just like to, like, what's their thinking? If someone has an electric car and you provide the charging station,
I
other
can't,
people that live in the building are not gonna own cars.
I can't explain their thing. I won't, I don't support it.
It's the craziest
And
law.
I don't support it at all.
And through the chair, that's why, I know this has not, last planning board meeting with the parking spaces, that's why, as plans go on, we, and the planning and the redevelopment, we have to adjust. We all agree that we have to adjust now going forward, that it's not one bedroom, one parking space per bedroom.
Let me just cut you off on that. That was actually, what the parking spaces that we got on the last one, that was pre-negotiated, that we would have a specific amount of parking spaces, and they wouldn't be able to supersede us with the,
Right.
with that EV credit. So it blocked them on that plan, because this plan came in before we were even aware of it happening. But now we are aware, and we're even gonna try to update the zoning ordinance to overcompensate to deal with what the state did and what they do to us, so.
And anyone that doesn't.
That was already included in the last plan, though.
Correct, but anything going forward, we have an agreement that we are going to go back and looking, and it won't be one parking per bedroom. One unit, it'll be one parking per bedroom. So, as we learn, as we go, this is where we're at.
I just want to state, as far as the stormwater, I'm glad you guys are improving it. I've been in this town my whole life. We definitely have a problem with stormwater runoff. We need to improve it, and by your statements here, you're going to improve that, so I think that's a plus for the town.
Are there any other questions for this witness?
You don't have to try to drive over the island, do you?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they will.
We have this upgrade that we're looking to do for Greylock Parkway all the way up, which includes like a concrete planter center island to stop that from happening. Would they be willing to start that project on at least the first block where they're located?
I'm not quite sure I follow your so,
So, the board members are concerned if in order to make a, what is that, a left or a right, whatever, from the other side of the island, people would actually drive over the island? Because it's a flat island, it's a curb, it's flat, and then you can go right over. I watch people going down in the morning and people drive right over it. So we drew up a plan to help stop that from happening and beautify that island. CME actually helped us work on it, so they have all the schematics of it. Would the applicant be willing, just for the block that they're on, to implement that plan to ensure that people aren't dangerously driving over that island?
so that they could drive over the island?
Prevent them from driving over the island. By implementing the piece of this plan, CME actually, the planners here.
Honestly, I don't see an issue with that. Okay, we're doing substantial site work here.
Okay.
We have to coordinate it with the town engineer and folks at CME, but I don't think there's an issue with that.
Okay.
We're going to participate.
Thank you.
So that will definitely benefit.
Greylock, first Greylock between.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I know Mr.
Could
Sanjay.
you just state your name?
Mika Apte, CM Planner.
So,
Mr. Sambay, I know you already testified, but just want to confirm, CME review letter dated June 5th, 2024. There were some design changes. For example, we said the plantings that you provided and the fence after that, we recommending the fence be behind that so that the plantings can be maintained. And several other comments. Would you be, is it on record that you would be complying with those comments?
Yes, it is.
The other question, I think one of the board members brought it up. The 6 visitor parking spaces, are those going to be marked in the front? Because that was the question, and that's why it's noted as, maybe. So could you clarify that? And how many spaces are left for the residential?
Absolutely. So the non-residential parking spaces are accessed from the second garage door from Washington, so the one that's further up Greylock. And if the garage door is open, you can pull into 2 commercial parking spaces, which would be labeled, and signage would have that. And then 6 visitor parking spaces, which would be similarly labeled and signage. And then after those parking spaces, there's a garage door, a second garage door, that would access the residential parking behind it. Total residential parking is 46.
Thank you. And one last question we needed, bear with me 1 second. Oh, about the soundproofing along the generator. Would you be testing that and willing to provide, once obviously it's constructed, that it meets the soundproof requirement for the state?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If the board requires us to do that, so that we meet state standards for the generator during operation, we'll do that. But the generator and is in a soundproof enclosure, in a sound deadening enclosure, and then the fence itself provides further sound deadening, but we will test it.
Thank you, Madam.
I'll open it up to the public. Anyone has questions about this project? Mr. Frantantoni.
Basically, Mr.
Mr. Frantantoni.
Can you just state your name and address, please?
Brent Antoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue.
Okay, great. And if you could, try to keep it to questions as best as you can for this portion.
Well, the three gentlemen over here addressed what I was going to bring up, the parking and the exiting of the building. There's definitely a problem there. And it's only going to get worse. The gentleman mentioned the word grass. Where's the grass area?
To the rear of the building.
How much?
It's 15 feet wide. By the depth of the building, it's 1,600 square feet, a little over 1,600 square feet.
Okay. And the runoff, now where is that going? Is that going down Floyd Street?
The runoff now comes off of the property, the gas station property, and the property to the rear. It runs from those properties onto Greylock Parkway, and then runs down the street, the curb line, to the inlets at the intersection of Greylock and Floyd Street.
So it goes into our stormwater system?
Currently, it goes into your stormwater system.
So that's what I'm saying, where is it going to go after you?
Into your stormwater system, but at 30% plus less than currently goes there now. There's a reduction of 30 to 35%.
How do you figure that deduction?
We store the stormwater on site. We have a stormwater detention system when it rains. We store it on site. After the peak of the storm moves on, then this water is slowly released into the storm sewer, and that results in the reduction, the peak reduction, because that's really the problem. If you get that storm in 5 minutes and it dumps in 5 inches of rain, that's an issue. If we have that storm here, it'll be released after that 5-minute thunderstorm is over. So that's where the benefit is.
Because ultimately, it all goes down to the valley, and the people in the valley are suffering more and more every year because we're paving over everything in town.
Well, it's understood, if I could just address your comment. I understand what you're saying, but we're reducing that impact. We're not making it worse, we're reducing it significantly.
So, yeah, what are the sides, width and length of the parking spaces?
9 by 19.
9 by 19. All right. The other thing I bring up is, in most of these meetings, no offense to you, but I'm saying all you professionals don't seem to understand what's really going on. That more and more people are buying online. More and more people are ordering food on Uber and all that. I'm in A1 residential. The last 12 houses on my block, there's only 12. But all night, it's crazy because those 12 houses, except me, my wife's the cook, we don't cook out. I mean, it's all night. It's like every 20 minutes, all right? Either
Mr. Frantantoni, your comments are important, but we're going to try to limit this this part, just 2 questions. So when we have you come up to comment, we'd love to hear, to let you finish that out. If you're done with your questions.
It is a question, I'm just prefacing
Okay.
the problems that are created. So I'm asking, do you take into account all these new things that are happening when you design it and you plan? And are you aware that the state wants to make Washington, they started the renovation now, it's only going to be 1 lane in each direction? Are you aware of that?
Well, I haven't seen anything final done. I mean, I have heard some things. But as far as what you're suggesting on deliveries, that's why we have this virtual doorman system, so that there's immediate access for deliveries and they're not waiting. But your comments are well taken. Yeah, that's the modern world. You're lucky your wife is a great cook. But you know, younger families, they do rely a lot on deliveries and such, and that's a fact. We think the redevelopment plan takes all of that into consideration.
But there's no space to accommodate those delivery vehicles on your site.
There are no spaces on site. We are creating 4 new on-street spaces, so that it's not as if we're not doing it. And the redevelopment plan does not require a loading space.
And then just finally for the record, is the owner of this project Richard Slackman?
They're the owners of one of the properties, I think, the home.
All right, because I'm concerned about the elect report, and it claims this gentleman is an employee of the township
All right,
of
Mr.
Belleville.
Fantoni, that's not a question, really.
Well, because there may be a conflict with the council.
He would not know what was on someone's form or in.
Well, we have the campaign contribution report. It's Richard
Right,
Schlockman,
that would
employer,
be-
Township of Belleville, address 152 Washington Avenue. So I'm asking if that's correct. This is from elect. If that's true, I think the councilman, Graziano, should step down.
Well, if I can answer that. So Mr. Schlockman and the 2 Mr. Schlockmans, they are my clients. And the gas station is owned by one entity, and Schlockman's owned the home. I can tell you they are not employees of the township of Belleville. They have several business interests, but they hold no public job, no interest in any public entity whatsoever.
Okay. so
Thank you.
No, that's what it says.
Yeah.
That could be wrong. It's wrong.
Okay. Just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Sheldon?
Good evening, everyone. Michael Sheldon, 47 Glen Street. Yes, I'm going to ask questions on no testimony, I promise.
Thank you.
When this special meeting was first advertised back in March, which was canceled.
Michael, use the microphone, please.
Sure. So, this project initially had a special hearing plan for March 19th, but it was canceled right before it was going to take place. In the legal notice, it said that the applicant was going to ask for some parking variances to allow parking spots only 7 feet wide, which I kind of found absurd, but I just want to confirm for the record, when I looked at the current site plans, all of the parking spots, like the applicant and his witnesses to confirm this, all of the parking spots are 9 feet or wider. There are no 7-foot wide parking spots in this building now.
I believe that was his
That's
testimony.
what I testified to.
Okay, all right. So along the way, I have been posting the Bart Simpson video where he, as a prank to the teachers, he restriped the teacher's parking lot, he moved all the lines in 1 foot to make 7 foot. When they all pulled in the morning, they couldn't open their doors. So anyway, lesson learned there. Looking at the plans, it appears you have 2 levels of parking. One level has 28, the other has 26 spots, if I am interpreting the plans correctly. I just want to make sure. One level is, I guess, on the ground level, the other is going to be subterranean.
Correct.
All right, okay. And I guess that would be tied into, as you said in the beginning of the testimony, you're aware of the site contamination. The site is going to be fully remediated. I went on the DEP website earlier today, and according to their timetable, the completion of the remediation is, as you said earlier, in the latter part of 2025. So it actually is fortuitous, you'll be excavating probably a lot of soil to clean up whatever contamination is there, and in the process, preparing the area for that sub-level parking garage.
Yeah, that would be an efficient use of money, sure.
So you're actually accomplishing two tasks in one swell also. Just as a follow-up, what Mr. Venero had been asking during his comments or questions, the parking situation here seems to be a lot worse than even Mr. Venero had asked about, and that is, there are 51 units in this building, 14 are two-bedroom, 37 are one-bedroom. So if you look at the total number of bedrooms alone, there are 65 bedrooms in this complex. And as has been testified already, there are only 46 dedicated spots for residents, and 6 visitor and 2 retail. But you have 65 bedrooms, according to the testimony.
There's the EV situation that we discussed.
Yeah, but again, we
But
all
that,
know
we
it's.
can't get around that.
But yeah, this is another situation where you're going to have, obviously, a lot more cars needing parking than is being provided by this building. 65 bedrooms, only 46 dedicated residential parking spots. So that's, right off the top, a difference of 20. Where are those cars going to park?
That's,
So
I have an opinion now. Any questions,
All right, well,
please?
I'll follow up on this during the final comments during testimony. I'm going to bring up something else that was recently mentioned in the planning board. I want to actually correct the record. I think we were given false information, but I'll cover that later on. And just to confirm, I think Mr. Banda may have already answered this question. The concrete divider along Greylock, that's staying in place. There are no plans to rip that up and allow movement back and forth. The Greylock divider.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be ripped up now.
It's going to improve, but it's always going to be a divider.
It's always going to be.
As long as we're here,
Yes.
holding shots with Belleville, there's always going to be that historical divider along that part of Greylock that leads from Union down to Washington Avenue. All right, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Mr. Joss?
It goes over there to Florida. That's Florida.
Your house 95 does.
Sorry, could you repeat that just a little louder?
Mario, M-A-R-I-O, like Super Mario Brothers, and drop D-R-O-Z-D-Z, 95 Bell Street in Belleville. 5 short blocks from this development. Just for clarification purposes, what is going to be, just for this development, what is going to be the final number between retail and rental, I guess the rental units or condos?
Rentals.
The rentals. What is going to be the total number on site? The total number on site parking for all these units and the retail?
54 parking spaces on site.
Just total, that's it?
On site and 4 on the street.
The 4 on the street?
Not including, there's 54 on site within the building and 4 on the street.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So in other words, the 4 on the street could be anybody's house, anywhere on Greylock Parkway?
Yeah, there's 4 new spaces on the street.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about, okay. Are you aware, you talked about the flooding, are you aware, well, you mentioned it goes to Floyd Street, but I don't know if you are aware, when we get torrential rains, because I'm lucky I don't get flooded, but going towards your building or whatever building owns it, that floods there, flash floods. I've seen many cars get flooded out there, and we just had them just recently, they flood. So I don't know how you're going to control that, because when that comes down, the catch basins on Floyd aren't going to catch it. It's going to keep going, because it's a gully, if you look from Greylock.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so you are aware of that, okay? Let's see. You talked about the maintenance. Are you going to have somebody's going to maintain the property? It's going to be on part-time, full-time basis?
Well, it's not going to be a living super if that's what
No,
the
that's what I'm
question
saying,
is,
yeah.
but there will be a maintenance company.
You have a maintenance company
That is hired to maintain,
to maintain
clean,
the properties.
take out the garbage, that sort of
Okay, you answered the question if they're rentals or
I know I have something else here. I'm asking questions.
It's appreciated.
Did you ever have anybody stand on the corner, like say by Walgreens, and watch these vehicles coming to Washington Avenue, making a left into the gas station? Okay, the reason, but like I said, I live 5 short blocks away. I have never, very rarely have I seen a vehicle going into the gas station, making the left on Washington. They all make at the end of the island, and the pole there, they all make that left into the gas station. They're all basically in the crosswalk. They're all making that left. And if you ever, and I get gas there. And I can't tell you how many times, I don't know if you're aware, I have a question, aware that they all make the U-turn on Floyd. They all, and not only that, that's the speed zone, because people drive crazy all over. And that's one of the places that they had to put up a stop sign around the block for me because of speed.
Yeah.
So, let me see.
So to answer your question,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a significant improvement in traffic characteristics between a gas station with 2 driveways, 2 long driveways on 2 streets, and controlled access into a multifamily building like that. So I think you would see an improvement in that regard.
All right, let me ask you 2 more questions I think I have. I don't want to make any comments right now. Has anybody done a traffic study on that? One?
No.
Okay. Has anybody done a parking study
No.
within township? The reason I'm bringing that up is I've requested that probably last year from the town council, of course it fell on deaf ears, because Township of Kearney did a parking study, and they
Mr. Draws,
found...
can we stay with the question at this
Okay.
portion?
Well, I'm asking him if he's aware, okay, are you aware of the parking study that Kearney did?
No, that's not relevant to this application.
Well, it is, because of the buildings are, and it's only going to show that there's no parking spots.
Please
I'll
stay
get back
with
on
the
that.
project.
I know I'm trying my best, you know that.
I don't know.
I'm
Please
trying.
stay.
All right, I have more comments, but I'll finish it up, but those were my questions for now, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public? I'm going to close this portion. Do you have any other witnesses?
Madam Chair, I do have a traffic engineer here who can answer questions if you'd like, or if you think that they've been sufficiently vetted by our engineer and answered by our engineer. I'll leave it to the board. Okay, so then we won't proceed, and that would be the conclusion of... Oh.
No. Okay, yes, we'll hear his testimony.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paraguay?
Can you state your name and address?
Sure, my name is Craig Peregoy, P-E-R-E-G-O-Y. This is address 245 Main Street, Chester, New Jersey.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Paraguay, can you present your qualifications to the board?
Sure, I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Virginia Tech. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey. I've been a traffic engineer for 24 years now. Testify pretty much on a nightly basis, including...
We'll accept your
Thank you. Mr. Paraguay, have you looked at this site from a traffic perspective?
Yes.
Can you please take us through your expert review?
Yes, sure. And we didn't prepare a formal traffic study for this because this is, as was testified to before, much less intensive use than a gas station. I can give you those numbers, and DOT is going to see it that way as well. They're going to appreciate getting the driveways off of their highway as is required by the redevelopment plan. But just to run through those numbers, as traffic engineers, you know, we look at the peak hours, the busiest hours of the day, and that's the morning and evening on a weekday, and then the midday on the weekend. And if I use the ITE, or the Institute of Transportation Engineers, trip generation numbers for this project versus that gas station, we're looking at a decrease in 17 vehicle trips in that morning peak hour, decrease of 21 in the evening peak hour, and a decrease of 15 on Saturday. So all 3 of the critical peak hours that we look at, you're going to have less traffic going on and off of that property with this proposal. And then if you go to look at the daily numbers, on a typical weekday, it's 166 less trips in and out, and on a weekend, 373 less compared to the gas stations. So that's why really there wasn't a traffic study done. And also, you know, as this is a redevelopment plan, generally that's considered at the time of adoption of the redevelopment plan, which we completely comply with.
So less cars down Floyd? Is that what you're saying? Less cars going down Floyd? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying less cars going on and off of this.
Well, the odds, right, that there's going to be less trying to make that U-turn if there's that many less trips, right?
Yeah, well, to put that number, you're worried about, I mean, obviously in the morning, everybody's leaving to go to work, the people who are driving to work, so the pool of traffic that might be going towards Floyd. Exiting that the residential component in the morning peak hours, 15 trips, 15 cars in the busiest hour. So will a handful of them go down Floyd? I think, again, these are residents who are gonna know the area and live there. I know that street's tight and I don't live here, so if you live on this corner, you're gonna know maybe to go down to Union or take one of the other streets. You're also gonna know to orient yourself to come in and watching. These are people who live there. As opposed to the gas station now where you have, and you heard the gentleman from the public, and I even saw it today, people making U-turns to get around that median, get in and out. I saw a guy come out to get to the signal and make a left, and he cut around the median in front of me in the crosswalk. That kind of stuff is less likely to happen when you have people who live there, who understand the traffic patterns like you all do, and know how to get in and out of their building. So in that regard, I think it's an improvement as well. It would be great to get rid of that median and allow people to make a left, but I'm sure it was there for a reason, and now it's going to look nicer and do its job better based on the opinion before. So, I mean, all in all I see is an improvement from a traffic standpoint for this project.
And the site will operate safely and efficiently on-site. The things we have under control, it's safe and efficient.
Yeah, and again, better than it does today. You're going to have conventional, normal curb cuts, 2 less of them, and you're not going to be able to sneak around that median like you can now, because the traffic is much farther back from the intersections.
Does anyone have any questions of the board for this witness? No? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone have questions for this gentleman? Don't see any. All right, I'm going to close this portion.
Okay. That would conclude our witnesses.
To give our summary?
Yeah, so in summary, what you have before you is a plan that fully complies with the redevelopment plan that was adopted by the council. It is an improvement, both from a public health and safety concern in terms of this being a gas station right now. We're going to remediate it. We've heard we're going to reduce traffic. We're going to improve the aesthetics. And as I said, it gives the exact kind of plan that the redevelopment plan called for. So this is what the municipality wanted, and this is what we've given as part of the site plan application. So I would ask that the board approve this application. Thank you.
Okay, we will do the summary portion now. Public have any comments that they would like to make?
For the public meeting.
Final? Okay.
Coming back up.
Back up.
Ready to overlay now, this one. All right, so now I can make some comments. Okay.
Please,
One of my
just
primary,
pertaining to this project.
around the project. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're talking about the traffic study. Like I said, you know.
You mind saying your name and address again?
Oh, Mario Charles, 95 Bell Street in Belleville.
Can you hold up your hand, right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great.
Okay, here we go. In regards to that traffic study, I understand what he's saying right now, but when I looked at that building, proposed building, the one that's going up around the block, another one that's going on down the block, we're talking close over 307 units right now that are in process. If this is approved, there's 268 units being built, another 80 being built. There's across the street another apartment's going to be built. So you're talking possibly over 350 units. And maybe the traffic study sounds good now, but where all these units are, they're in, 2 of them are being developed right now. And I know the motorcycle mall he's the owner of the property across the street. Right now, he doesn't even have parking for his own employees. He parks them in the bowling alley. I guess he has some kind of deal. So he actually paying his own employees, just giving you an idea of the parking problems. And if you look around Floyd Street, Beach Street, Alden, Linden Avenue, there isn't a day, or most of the time, that cars are parked illegally because there is no parking in the neighborhood. So let's say we got 65, we should have really technically 65 units here. So say everybody has an extra car and you have 65 cars. So 54 cars are going to be parked legally, and where are the rest gonna go? There's no parking. You don't live there, I live there, right down the block. I have the problem, I can't tell you how many times I complained about cars parking illegally, so the cops got tired of hearing me to town, and they actually painted the curbs yellow, and it's still compounding the problem. If every car had to park legally, you wouldn't be approving these big projects like this. That's why I asked for a parking study for the town, like the Carney did it, and they found out, and guess what? We have more cars than parking spaces, and that's happening here now. That's gonna be a serious problem. And then now every morning when I'm gonna come by, I'm gonna have to look at 5 stories. You're gonna be taking my scenery away every morning when I go down Greylock Parkway towards the ball greens. I'm losing my view, quality of life over these buildings. It's not only his, it's all of them. It's affecting our quality of life. Let me see what else I have here. Well, that's basically what I'm saying. It's going to be a traffic nightmare once the state does whatever they're doing 1 lane in each direction. It's going to create a nightmare, believe me. And I think that building is too tall. It's too tall, that's the bottom line.
Okay, Mr. Shelby?
Now, I'll get Mr. Frantantoni to go first before me.
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Frantantoni.
Frantantoni.
I'll wait till the end. It's like the fact that he said.
Can you state your name and address?
Vincent Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue, Belleville.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Right.
I won't be redundant. Mario's correct. There's one problem. He was off on his figures a little bit. The motorcycle, across from the motorcycle mall, that's 258 units. The other side of ShopRite is 115. This one is 51. That's 424. We don't know diagonally what's going to be over there yet. And you have some Washington Avenue property owners salivating that, oh, this is going to, I'm going to set my property, and I'm going to get these done. You also have a developer, 2 of them call me, but one, I sold my property last year, but just before that, contacted me, hey, if you can get your other 3 neighbors to agree with you, I can get you double your money for it. I said, I don't want these high-rises on it, all right? Well, he's now in the process of building a 7-story monster in the township of Belleville. So I'm happy that these 3 gentlemen spoke up about what's going on in this town. Not one of these projects has been rented yet. Wait till you see what's going on. The other problem you got with this parking, a few months ago, one of my trade magazines said these builders are building bigger garages because there's a big increase in the sale of pickup trucks, these large pickup trucks and these SUVs. So we're not going to fit them in these, what I call human cages and all. So as planners, all these things, these zoning ordinance and the master plan and all that, they were created by the council and the planning board. Now, I agree. What you're saying here is you admitted it was bad planning. We've got to change our zoning laws. We can't allow these properties to be built on every square inch of these places that we have. Richie's Auto Body, it was approved, 81 units, property line to property line. The same developer that's building on the north side of ShopRite right now. No side yard, no rear yard, no front yard and all that. 7 stories high, 81 units. Wait till you see what this town is going to be when these things are finished. So I'm glad this was a little inkling of maybe you realize it was bad planning. And I got to compliment Mr. Giordano. He didn't say exactly, but the town meeting, I'm not Mr. Giordano, Mr. Graziano, he's started to inkling. I think he knows it was bad planning. Hopefully, he'll continue with his comments. But this town is going to be shut. There's going to be virtual gridlock. And like I brought up at the meeting the other night, we got to understand somebody's got to look at the map. You can't get into Belleville except Rucker Street, or 2.5 miles north of Nutley to Bridge. We're gonna have a temporary real disaster when that bridge is closed for repairs for 2.5 years. But even with both bridges open, and all the development in Montclair, I told the council, you know, I keep telling you, and Bloomfield, all that crazy development, all these people who work in New York can only get home through Belleville Avenue and the Belleville Turnpike. And it's a disaster now. Wait till these several thousand units are starting to rent it. Hopefully you wake up. Thank you.
Could you please state your name and address?
J.D.R. Cosmas, 43 Liberty Avenue, Belleville.
Can you hold your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Can you spell your last name? Sure, it's C-O-S-M-E. So I have a school 2 doors down forward. This is going to be built. We do have a problem with parking. The motorcycle mall has a lot of staff. Right now, in front of the school is a 15-minute parking spot, 9 from 7 to 9 and from 3 to 6 in order for my parents to be able to drop off their children. I guess my question and suggestion is if that spot in front of the school can be designated for the school at least Monday through Friday so that my children can get dropped off and picked up every single day, at least from Monday to Friday. Because what I have now, we battle with and I call it in if it's there more than 15 minutes, but I can see that that can possibly become a problem, and I do not want my children crossing the street on Washington Avenue.
That would be a nice caveat for you, but this board can't do that. Maybe the councilman is able to,
I think that that's actually something that can possibly be accommodated, so just contact the police chief, maybe send them an email and request it, and then you could even come one of the days during the week and talk to them in person. But I don't see why not, Monday through Friday, it's just for a quick drop off. I know other businesses have it, I think that we did something like that similar for an emergency services at the hospital veterinary place in Silver Lake. So I don't see that being a problem.
But what you can also do is just include me on the email when you see Chief Menachini, Tommy Graziano, so this way, if he has questions, you can say this came up and we can have that conversation together.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Mr. Sheldon.
Name and address.
Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Before I present my testimony, the gentle lady that just spoke, she mentioned she has a school a couple doors down from the site for this, and it just dawned on me, the last planning board meeting, you approved the cannabis facility at the former Bradley Tire store. Mr. Bennett can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a 1,000-foot separation under the current zoning between a cannabis store and a school. If she's operating a school at present at that location, I believe that's within 1,000 feet of the newly approved cannabis operations. You may have a serious separate issue here, something you may want to address tonight or tomorrow. That application may be in jeopardy. So, all right. As I mentioned earlier tonight, the building consists of 37 one-bedroom units and 14 two-bedroom units, total of 65 bedrooms. I didn't bother to ask the attorney, the applicant, if they did any study regarding how their proposed building may impact our school system. I've done this in the past with similar projects, and I've kind of learned my lesson. When I ask this question, I'm usually told little or no impact. By virtue of it being mostly one bedroom, there won't be any kids added to the school system. Now, I don't really need to point out the fact that Mr. Novarato, Mr. Graziano, and I do share one thing in common. We are all former Board of Education trustees with particular sensitivity to the needs of our school system. And over the last few years, as all of these large projects have come before the planning board and been approved, we're almost always told, don't worry about these big buildings. By virtue of their construction, they're going to produce very few children. In fact, at the last month's council meeting, one of the residents got up and expressed her concern about the impact these buildings are having on the school system. And our mayor adamantly said, we ran down a quick list, in particular he cited the huge building on Belmont, which this board approved, 247 units, and he was emphatic. He said, that building has produced only 4 kids, right? Now, I don't know, and I think Mr. Banda has also echoed that. I don't know where they got their numbers, but, you know, I'm fairly active with computers and filing OPA requests, etc. And because this issue often comes up at planning board meetings, in February I filed an OPA request with our Board of Education. I have extra copies here, which I'll leave for you. Because I wanted to know from the source.
Mr. Sheldon,
Yes.
let's try to limit the testimony to the application as best as you can.
Give me just a few more seconds. You'll see how it all wraps together. The huge building on Belmont isn't producing 4 kids at this moment. 26 children. 26, that's an order of magnitude different than what our mayor would like us to believe.
I see that.
Sure.
Can we all get a copy of?
I've emailed several of you already, but I will leave this. I think I've got 3 copies. I'll send Corinne extra copies and she can distribute this to the board. But as you'll see on the second page, Mr. Palladino, our business administrator for the Board of Education, provides me with the current count as of the end of February, the total number of students currently in our Belleville school system from the Belmont project. 247 residential units, 26 children, not 4, as Mr. Mellon has repeatedly claimed. Now, you know, this is just confirming the concerns, the fears that I, Mr. Francantoni, Mr. Droz, and a handful of other residents have been saying at all these meetings for these last 6 years. You guys have to do a better job policing and controlling the impact that all of these rampant, large projects are ultimately going to have on our school system. At the beginning of this year, our outgoing superintendent warned that we are in a crisis situation. Based on their demographic studies, within the next few years, we are going to completely run out of space in our schools. We won't be able to accommodate any more children. And that's before these buildings that you've approved are finished and have their doors open for rentals. We're going to have a crisis of biblical proportion here. We're going to have too many children in Belleville, not enough school space, and moreover, most of these projects are only made possible because they have ANOR status, they have pilots. And if you look at the project on Belmont, the taxes that that developer is paying for the assessed land value is $140,000 a year. The extra tax income, that's part of the ANOR pilot deal, that goes to the town, 95% goes to the town hall, 5% goes to the county. What the Board of Education gets is about 38% of the taxes paid on the assessed land value, which comes to $140,000 total. That means that the Board of Ed is getting only about $56,000 a year to provide a thorough and efficient education, as the state constitution mandates, to 26 children at the present time. Those 26 children require nearly $600,000 to provide educational services. The developer for that project is only giving the Board of Ed $56,000. So who makes up the difference? It's all of us humble taxpayers. We're the ones who are being scammed by these ANOR declarations, these pilot programs, and this is just another nail in the coffin. Yes, the building looks beautiful, and another place, and another time, this would be a fine addition to Belleville, but we all know what the consequences are going to be of yet another one of these buildings. In short order, you're going to have 10, 15 kids coming from this project alone added to our school system. And Dr. Tomko, at the beginning of the year, said that just the last 9 two-family houses that went online in Belleville had already contributed 15 more students to the district. You guys need to put the brakes on all of this development. You need to say, we need a pause to do the proper studies. Just don't take Mr. Mellon's word for it when he says that Belmont is only producing 4 kids. Go to the actual source. Go to the superintendent. Go to the business administrator and get the actual real numbers. And then be in a proper position to make these determinations if Belleville can withstand another one of these projects. Because, you know, you're setting us up for an unmitigated disaster. And all I'm asking is just pause. Say, look, we need to take a breather. We got too many big projects currently undergoing construction. Let's see what happens to this township after those buildings are completed and they start opening for renters. And in a year or two, then come back and see if Belleville can handle any more large buildings like this. It's in your hands. You're the planning board. You're supposed to plan for Belleville's future, not just what's going to happen in the next month or the next year. You're supposed to look down the road and try to envision what Belleville's going to be like 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from now. And if this type of construction goes unchecked, there won't be a Belleville, at least not as we know it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name, address, and sworn in.
Greg Izzy, 138 Floyd Street. Raise your hand again.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
What was the last name?
Izzy, I-Z-Z-I. So my parents and I, we live literally around the corner from this. And until I saw it on Facebook a few months ago, we had no idea they were building this, even though my parents had been planning for 2 years. And I understand, you know, that a lot of these projects are being built around the town, and personally, I don't agree with any of them. I think it's out of control. The traffic that will come in from all these people, everyone has a car. I mean, this notion that everyone that's going to buy into these things will not have cars, will take the buses. If you've been on New Jersey Transit, you don't want to be on those things. You really don't. And it just takes forever. You want to use your car. And so it's just, the traffic will be crazy. And I can testify to what some have said about the U-turning. Anyone who comes out of this thing is going to have to make a right onto Greylock, and most of the time, they're not going to go up Greylock. They're going to want to come back on Washington Avenue, so they're going to be making U-turns, or they're going to be coming down my street, which, I'll give you an example. When I grew up there, pretty much all day and after school and everything, I shot basketball in front of my house because there was no cars. Now there are 0 parking spaces anywhere on the street. One of the reasons is, it's not relevant, but one of the reasons is that a lot of the houses have contractors who own the houses, and a lot of their workers come, they park all over the street, they leave their vans all over the street, so there's no parking. So that will happen. I've heard the testimony about the parking spots. I mean, let's be, you know, if we're being realistic here, people who visit, people who live there, you know, like it's been said, they're going to have multiple cars. Where are they going to park? They're probably going to park on Greylock, they'll park on my street where there's already no parking. As Mr. Droz said, they have painted the yellow lines. No one abides by them. I mean, I don't blame them, because there's nowhere to put your car. You're parking, if you go all the way on Overlook, it is literally every inch, almost, except for maybe in like the middle of the day, every inch is a car. From Floyd to Overlook, back up Overlook, that whole area there is just cars. I don't know how people, luckily there's not a lot of traffic there, I don't know how people don't crash all the time. This is just cars. And I understand it's a nice building, has nice amenities, but I just, from someone who has grown up here, I don't understand that. Like, right on that corner, I don't understand it. Why, like, I'm just thinking, you had a gas station there, which somebody said that it's better to have a building there. I mean, a lot of us like the gas station, believe it or not. It's convenient. The only other gas stations now will be either down Quick Check or all the way to Nutley, but I'm just thinking to myself, you're knocking down a gas station, you're putting up this giant structure, 5 stories. Why can't it be, 50, 60 some odd units? Can't be like 10 units, 20 units? I don't understand, like, the expansion of it. And the last thing I would say is, years ago when they built the Walgreens on the opposite corner, my father came here and I believe it was a planning board meeting, and he said they wanted, their application was to have it open 24 hours. And he said, I don't want a 24-hour, even though it's fine, he's like, I don't want this thing open for 24 hours behind our house, because our house, the backyard's right in the Walgreens where the drive-through is. And whoever the planning board, they said, yeah, no, fine. It will only be open to 10 p.m. And there wasn't a lot, there was a couple of residents here that spoke about it, and maybe the height of the fence. And, they ruled in his favor, and we were happy about that. And I don't know, from the chatter I hear and what's been said, it sounds like nobody can do anything. Like, this is going to pass without any changes, and I'm not even blaming the applicants. It just seems like that's what what's been decided already, and if that's the case, I don't know what to say. I really don't. And I've never seen me, I don't come to these things, my parents won't come to these things. The people in the neighborhood I will just testify to, most of them are immigrants, they're not involved. First language is not English, they're not going to be involved in this kind of thing, they're not going to speak up, it's not in their backgrounds. So I'm speaking up, and I'm just saying that it's beyond anything I could imagine. I understand the other things are being built on Washington Avenue. I think those are bad enough as it is. That being said, there's no one that lives there. Washington Avenue itself will be gridlock, especially if you do this one-lane thing. But it doesn't impact us like living every day because it's over. There's no one that lives there. So, but we live right around the block from this, and the other people live right there. And this is, to me, I just think it's too much. I don't know what can be done, but that's it.
Are there any other summaries out there? All right, I'm going to close the public portion.
Just to make one simple statement.
Go up to the mic, please.
So, just to answer Mr. Sheldon on his piece, and I've always been an advocate of the schools getting a share of some of the pilot money, and I've said that over and over again. I've said that how to do it. It's up to the school board and the council to make that decision to work together, and they should work together. They should come up with something. Beyond that, though, Michael, I don't know what you opened. You opened a lot of addresses here. But the actual number, because I have an Oprah too, and there's specific addresses associated with the buildings at that property. You have to go by those addresses. So I think 115 is the Super Fresh, 155 is the Phoenix Salons, and then 165 is the actual apartment building. All right, mine's from June 24th, 2024, yeah. It came back with less than 10. They couldn't give me an actual number because it would single out an individual kid possibly. So I have it here, I'll share it with you. It's not 26, it's less than 10.
I think we all need to sit down with the Board of Ed and get to the bottom of these numbers, because we seem to be all getting different, inconsistent figures from the Board of Education.
I agree. The other piece of it too is I think we need to focus heavily on the re-registration process and sort out any type of overcrowding or illegal enrollment in the school district, because that is also a very big problem. In terms of changes to the neighborhood, yeah, this is gonna change, have some changes to the neighborhood, but I do like to rely on statistics, data, and also tax numbers. I've said over and over again that the 1 and 2 family houses in this township are the biggest burdens on the town. These mixed-use buildings, though, help offset those burdens, because they aren't bringing the kids in. They might cause some traffic with the businesses, but businesses cause more traffic than residential properties. The actual traffic study gentleman actually just said that. This will reduce the amount of trips coming out of that property, which will reduce the amount of trips going down Floyd Street, hopefully. Or if anything, they'll stay equal. Same thing with stormwater management. This will positively affect stormwater management for the entire neighborhood. So some changes will come, but we have to kind of rely on something, not just opinion. So as we've done, the reason why we're doing all this is because we are trying to improve the township. We're trying to improve the tax base of the township. We're trying to improve the downtown of the township. We're trying to improve desirability overall. With that said, we have to give some of this a chance. So tonight, yeah, no, we can't make really any changes. It is the zoning. It was approved by the council. This is set. We can't say no if they're 100% conforming, right? We could ask for little things, why I asked for the beautification of Greylock, but this is a little different than the zoning board where they can make that call and say, no, I don't like it. So I hope everybody in the audience understands that piece too as well. And I also say, give it a chance.
Any other? Yes.
It's a beautiful building, another setting, another place. I would love it. In that area, I can't go. I'm sorry.
Any other? All right. Motion.
Yeah. You want to cite the conditions?
Oh, no, I was just discussing. I'll say it louder. Okay, so we have 2 conditions. One is that the applicant will agree to push the columns back in the parking area, 18 to 24 inches. And the second condition is that the applicant will implement a piece of the town's plan to renovate the median on Greylock, beautify it, widen it in accordance with the town's plan. I'm sorry, yes, between Washington and Floyd on Greylock. I think that's it. Yeah.
So those are the conditions as it stands. The board would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve with the conditions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Chairwoman Alvarado.
Yes.
Mr. Venero.
Just quickly, I'd like to state the reason I'm going to vote the way I am. I'm against the parking. I don't feel it's enough. I feel that the 2 bedrooms need 2 parking spots, but this plan meets all the criteria for the redevelopment plan. There are no variances. It meets the plan that the council drew up. So in good conscience, I do not feel I can vote no. So for those reasons, I vote yes.
And Mr. Vanda.
I already stated my reasons, so yes.
Mr. Giordano.
No.
Mr. Graziano.
I'm gonna also give a reason why I'm voting the way I am. So my vote is yes, but also understand that there's a lot of plans that are in effect, and they're taking time to come to fruition. During these times, we have been learning where we need to tweak it and where we need to communicate it up to the council before it gets to us. And we've already had those conversations north to council, and we're going to move and continue to do better with that, okay? And things change. I mean, I understand the parking, I understand that's what we're addressing. I understand the U-turns, I understand, I live on Chestnut my whole life. I'm on Liberty. I travel from one side to the other. I got cut off by somebody making a U-turn the next street up from Floyd. It happens right now. I'm not justifying it. We need to do better as a township. We need to ticket. We need to go after these things. It's just, like Brian said, we need to give it a chance. So with them complying, my vote is yes.
Okay, Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Gunny?
They have the required parking spaces, but I already know there's not enough, and I can't vote yes, I'm a no.
Can we continue to let the council know that we want parking enforcement?
Yes, so we are, well, like I said, there's things that we're going to do as a council, and I promise that from being a council person coming down here and with the redevelopment plan, we are going to have these open conversations before it'll be an open, and we're going to let you all know what's in the pipeline from the redevelopment side. And I would expect the same thing from the zoning. I would expect the same thing from the zoning committee to come and communicate to the planning board. There needs to be communication on both sides of the fence. So somebody has to grab the bull by the horns and do this. But I'd be thinking the chairs at levels would be doing that. But with all of this happening, we're going to look to go that way. We're going to, right? So it's an all. It's a part. It's up to us. Like I think some people in the audience said, that we do have to think, and we do. We do think for going forward, but also understand, just like the state throws things at us, that they tie our hands and we can't do anything with it. So these are things that we have to adopt, change, and move as we go. But you're going to have, the planning board, we are going to get the information more upfront than we've ever had before. I can tell you that from the redevelopment side. I give you my commitment to that. Brian and I will do that.
Just a quick comment about Floyd Street. I know for a fact there's commercial vehicles on that street that if it were to be removed, it would be a lot better for the residents to park.
And the residents have to take their part too and keep calling in. If there's illegal apartments, if they're commercial vehicles, they have to do it. And then what happens is once it goes on record, not call somebody because you know them. You can't call this one. Call, get it on record. And once you get it on record, then once you do it, you shouldn't have to do it more than once. But if you have to do it, then you blast an email out to the council. That's what needs to be done. And we all, like everybody said it when God forbid they said, you see something, you say something. And you need to do it continuously, not just little pieces. Everything. And if everybody takes a part of it, and I've said this from the beginning, workers live outside of Belleville. You live in Belleville. You're employed by Belleville. If you see something you don't like in your town and you don't like it here, say something. It's in the best interest of all of us to keep communicating.
Well, what happens, not to say that it shouldn't be done, but I know residents on that street have called numerous times and they get no response. They may come the first time and then they're ignored after that. So
Well, they have reported concern now.
Something needs to be done as far as when calls come in about the parking that is taking place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to say something about what Mr. Draz said earlier about the parking to the corners and to the curbs. I was walking the street with CME, and one of the things we said on Greylock is we got to kind of do something because they keep knocking over our signs. They keep hitting our signs. I said, I don't know if we could do this, and Viveka just actually said, she goes, well, look right there. And there was no parking here at the corner sign, and there was a car parked right in front of it with no ticket, no nothing, and she said, well, the trucks can't make the turns. So they just have to take it wider, and they go over the island, and they hit the sign and knock the sign down. I asked DPW, how much does it cost us to replace these signs? $40,000 a year to put the signs back up. So if we don't want to enforce our laws, this is why we live in the neighborhood we live. It's enforcement. Most of the problems we hear here from the residents is, well, the problems are here already, you're just going to get worse, nobody's ever going to do anything. That's why people, most of the time, hate any type of change because the current status isn't being taken care of. What are we going to, it's all quality of life. We're not hitting those factors. So I understand why everybody's upset with the fact that we don't want to make any changes. They don't want to make changes because of that. So we have to start doing things. And the same thing too, we're allowing these cars to park to the corner. We're allowing all these houses now to have all this extra parking that wouldn't be there. We're aiding and abetting illegal units, because now those units have parking spaces. So it all falls together. So if we don't do one thing, the rest of it falls apart. It's the broken windows theory, right? You let one thing go, it gets worse and worse and worse.
All right,